Hello and welcome to Rising. I'm Amber Duke here with Nomiki Konst. Great to have you back at the desk.
Thank you.
Absolutely. 2 for 2. All right. Donald Trump says he wants to debate Kamala Harris, not just once, but 3 times between now and November. Speaking from Mar-a-Lago Thursday, the GOP nominee said he has agreed to debate Harris on September 4th on Fox News, again on September 10th on NBC, and then again September 25th on ABC. Here's a snippet from his presser Thursday afternoon. Let's watch.
The other side has to agree to the terms. They may or may not agree. I don't know if they're going to agree. She hasn't done an interview. She can't do an interview. She's barely competent, and she can't do an interview. But I look forward to the debates because I think we have to set the record straight.
Harris responded. Take a look.
I'm glad that he's finally agreed to a debate on September 10th. I'm looking forward to it, and hope he shows up.
Are you open to more debates?
I am happy to have that conversation about an additional debate or after.
Meanwhile, polling on the state of the race is all over the place. Thursday, a new Marquette University Law School survey shows that Harris is leading Trump by 6 points, 53% to 47% among likely voters nationwide. It also confirms that Harris maintains the lead when an independent candidate, say RFK Jr., is introduced. With the outsider, she still leads Trump with 47% support compared to his 41% and 9% going to RFK Jr. Like the Marquette poll, NPR's PBS News Marist released their own poll, also showing Harris polling ahead of Trump with 51% support to 48%. The poll also revealed that she's doing better among independent voters, 53 to 44% respectively. A CBS News YouGov poll released a poll earlier this month, also showing Harris topping Trump. But the Trump campaign quickly jumped on this, pointing to how sampling was manipulated, skewing the poll of respondents, therefore skewing the results. In an internal memo made public, the Trump team wrote the poll was, quote, entirely the result of a methodological decision allowing ideology to change significantly while maintaining weights on age, partisanship, and race to make the survey appear not to have been manipulated. Without this manipulation, President Trump would be maintaining a 51 to 49 lead in their August 4th survey.
But other polling shows that Trump is the one in the lead. For example, a CNBC survey reveals he is ahead of the VP by 2 percentage points, which is the same as when pitted up against Biden when he was at the top of the Democratic ticket. According to the latest Rasmussen poll, Trump tops Harris with 49 to 44%, with 4% supporting other candidates. Despite the inconsistencies, pollster Frank Luntz is leaning Harris, posting, quote, if the election were held today, I actually believe Kamala Harris would beat Donald Trump. That's how much things have changed over the past 2 weeks. So this seems like more like a lesson in the danger of looking too much at any singular poll than anything else. I think when you go across the evidence that we have right now, the bottom line is this is a tight race.
Right.
But I think what is really underscoring all of this is that we're basically back to where we were before that Trump-Biden debate in June, where we saw sort of a back and forth of a 2-point or 3-point lead, usually within the margin of error. I think all of these polls that we're looking at here between CNBC, Rasmussen, NPR, and CBS are all within the margin of error. It's just close.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, within the margin of error, plus or minus 1 or 2 points in favor of mostly Harris. I think what also is significant and what is unusual in Trump's response, the campaign's response, is it seems as if they're relying heavily on ideological factors, which are very unpredictable in polling. And if you look at polling experts like Soltis Anderson, who's in the New York Times, she explained that this is something that pollsters across the board do not rely on because, you know, you can tweak with them a little bit. They try to do their best. Polling is imperfect, especially since people have pulled away from their home phones and younger generations are harder to poll. But there's an excitement shift. I mean, this is absolutely like what is playing the biggest factor here is that as soon as Kamala Harris got in the race, and the polling hasn't even reflected Tim Walz entering the race yet, but as soon as Kamala Harris entered the race, excitement went up. And there was an excitement issue where people are not interested in taking part in the election. Independents like RFK Jr. were doing a little bit more strongly before Kamala Harris jumped in. And it seems as if the Trump campaign doesn't want to acknowledge that. and they're just like everything else, they think it's rigged. Polling is flawed. We know that. Instead of complaining about polling, they should be, going out there and getting their voters excited.
Right, message discipline. I completely agree. And I think it's fair to say that the excitement has changed pretty significantly with the Democratic Party. I mean, it seems kind of obvious, right? You have this guy who has a lot of questions surrounding his ability to make it through a second term, a lot of division within the Democratic Party about whether or not to force him out. And then you get the party to rally behind his vice president as the new nominee. Naturally, people are going to be more excited to vote for her than they were to vote for Joe Biden. Also, considering the fact that there was a lot of consternation with Joe Biden's Israel policy. According to the CNBC poll, 54% of Kamala Harris voters say that their vote is a vote for her rather than against Trump. With Biden, it was only 31% of his voters who said the same thing. The line that's coming out of, I would say, right-leaning data firms and polling firms is that there's obviously notable energy, but there's not evidence that the fundamentals of the race have been reset. And I think we're going to see things start to move in one or the other direction once the Democratic convention goes by and Harris releases whatever her platform is going to be after they have this debate on September 10th at ABC, which there was like some confusion over when exactly the debate was taking place and where, but it's apparently going to be September 10th on ABC. And then I think, Harris has also said that she's going to have finally a sit-down media interview by the end of the month, and that could change things too.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think it only works in favor of Democrats at this point. We have the convention coming up. There's usually, although it didn't happen with RNC, there's usually a bump in polling after a convention. And so I think we're going to see the best and brightest, the next generation of Democrats come forward. We're going to see a diverse coalition on stage of different types of Democrats. We may even see some never Trump Republicans. I mean, my ideal, and I don't know if this will ever happen, is if Mike Pence introduces our vice presidential nominee, Tim Walz.
His approval rating's not great.
But it makes a point. It makes a point that, this is a man who we may not agree with ideologically. He's much more conservative when it comes to cultural issues, but he is a man who does believe in democracy and was not willing to stand in the way of democracy for Donald Trump's, own gains. So I think there's a lot to happen here, and it's only going to get better for Democrats. Enthusiasm is everything. That is really what makes or breaks elections. That's how Donald Trump won. Even the polls said he was not going to win mostly in 2016, but he had the enthusiasm. We cannot deny that. I was on the Bernie Sanders team in 2016. We were complaining about this to the Hillary team, that they needed to get the base excited. When I was covering the election in 2016 in Pennsylvania on Election Day, the lines were not out the door like they were in 2008 and 2012 for Barack Obama. I think that's going to be different this time around. I think that actually went into Kamala Harris's choice of not choosing Shapiro. I don't think she necessarily needed Governor Shapiro, to win Pennsylvania. I think that she can do it on her own. I think they're really going to be focusing on swing voters, those independent voters who are now leaning towards Kamala Harris. And of course, the Midwestern white male voters, the Tim Walz dads.
and that's where I think she's going to have a problem, is with this move to the middle that she's trying to pull off, and where I don't think a debate and a sit-down media interview are in the Democrats' favor, because she still has not explained how she has changed so much from 2019 when she was running in the Democratic primary to where she is today. And I think if she doesn't provide a sufficient enough explanation for that, or tries to gloss over it, that is a very helpful attack line for the Trump campaign and for the Republicans. Is, okay, you said you were this massive progressive, now you're running as a moderate and are trying to advance that idea with, this white Midwestern dad who conveniently has pretty much all of the same policies that you espoused in 2019. Where is the disconnect here? And are you going to govern more as a progressive if you were to win an election, or is this moderate shift truly who you are now?
I mean, I don't even think it's a question of becoming a moderate. I think she and Tim Walz have policies in the past, and hopefully today with the new platform, that are economic, populist, progressive policies. And that bleeds over, as Bernie Sanders showed in his messaging and his platform, that bleeds over to independent voters, that bleeds over to even people who are socially conservative. They want their lives to be better. And so I think at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to who's going to make your life better.
I think you're right. All right, we're going to leave it there. We'll be back with more Rising after this.